Welcome, listeners, to another adventure of Captain Rit, where most days start nicely. The birds were chirping, the sun gently caressed the windows of all residences without prejudice, even the odd one that stood out from the others. Inside was a resident genius doctor, owner of a twisted sense of how the world should work. Despite his education, his delivery was also twisted.
Wonderful day of days, Captain Rit falls before me.
His name was Dr. Syntaxulus. Given our time constraints, most his remaining lines will be pieced correctly together.
He will crumble like Alcatraz before my intellectual might, and rue the day he elected to protect Ritopolis.
The affairs of his other cohorts were his playground. It brought him minor amusement while waiting to spring his plans, like criticizing every single copyist in the newsroom, for example. The requests were all across the board.
Would you please find some way for my main group to get to Africa?
I wanted some different lighting in that scene.
I want my character's girlfriend to question her career choice.
Would you make that character black?
With equanimity, he accepted all their outlandish requests. Of course, Dr. Syntaxulus was unafraid in abusing their trust, because he purposely left in some edits.
My red pen can't be undone, and now they've bequeathed control over their stories. They will curse the day they learned proper syntax.
Just one such request would keep him happy for hours, but the plethora of them helped him experience such euphoria that he felt invincible. The people whose works he heavily edited were coming through the changes now. What? I can't get this red ink out! I've tried everything! Even the delete key on my keyboard, and nothing works! This is so disconcerting! What are these words you keep using? I should call the reliable Ritopolis police! Their actual track record was far from great. She was about to find out firsthand.
That's just it, ma'am. We have a similar MO on cases before, but we're never able to solve them satisfactorily.
So I'm just supposed to accept that this fiend ruined my manuscript the night before it's due? Is that what you are telling me, officer?
We apologize for the inconvenience, ma'am, but there's little we can do. This person knows their stuff, and they are a step ahead of even our forensics team.
Well, good night, and good riddance to you, officer! Will Dr. Syntaxulus get caught? Will Captain Rit stop him, or will he live to fight and edit badly another day? Tune in for the full episode of the Captain Rit Files, or whatever the hell we call this thing, in the nearest old-timey radio station. Go find one! Also, sorry, this was really short and really poorly edited. The edited part is my fault. Originally we recorded this segment of Matt David's story, and the original recording was 30 minutes long. And I try to make it shorter, but the thing about my co-host is that not only is he wordy, but he's also wordy efficiently, if that makes any sense. Like, there's so much to it that, like, when I edited it, it didn't make sense. And from this point onwards, it was the part where it stopped making sense, the more edit. Like, what you're hearing now was, like, about 10 minutes worth of material heavily edited down. Someday we'll do a Patreon, and then if listeners are interested, you can hear the full version of the story, just in case you want to hear it. So we will provide that option for you if you would like. I just didn't want to have a 30-minute skit at the beginning. So yeah. Enjoy the rest of the episode! Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Ritwit, the show where us two twits talk about writting, and most of what that entails, even when we have things to find simple summary, like, what the hell is story cooking, or cerebral stimulation beans, or writting? I mean, what the hell is writting, David? What is it?
Well, it's a word that we basically, modified from English, proper English. But no, I was more referring to, like, when we try and categorize all of the villains into certain roles, and we're about to do something similar with types of... well, we're gonna do the other half today.
Yes, the other half, the first party, like the third party are the neutral characters, first party the heroes, second, I don't know if that's true or not, who knows.
Well, I suppose if you look at it that way, it wouldn't be wrong of you, but anyways.
How are you today, David?
Doing pretty good. I was really excited to hear that excerpt. I mean, I know we recorded the whole thing, but like, it was really fun to hear the excerpt from that serial. And
yeah, the one that you wrote for your NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, I did. I did. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Right.
But first, I suppose we should do the other normal segment we do.
Hey, wait, what? You're gonna ask how I am?
Oh, I'm sorry. How have you been, Donald?
Ugh. My butt hurts.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this one.
Okay, so the muscle. Oh, hold on. I unplugged my microphone here. Don't say anything. Okay, not my microphone, my headphones. I'm gonna keep all this in. No, I'm not. Okay.
I was literally trying not to talk if you were gonna keep it in.
All right, no, it's fine. Okay, so I need to stop tugging on this thing. Damn it. Okay. Alright, so there's some sort of muscle problem. It's because I slouch too much in my chair. It's because I like to relax after a long, hard day at work at the coffee place that shall not be named.
Coffee place. Okay, gotcha.
And so I like to slouch on my chair, and then now my muscles have just tensed up and told me a resounding no. And it hurts, and so now I'm sitting up in this much less comfortable but much more good for my back chair, and I hate it.
I see.
But if you have an ass as good as mine, it needs work to maintain.
Oh, dear Lord. I was about to say, if you're complaining of all the slouching, that maybe you've been doing, like, negative work on that.
Clearly.
But...
And so now I have to work it.
Work that muscle, Don.
Work that butt. Work that butt.
Oh, jeez.
Anyways.
I wonder if that'll make a reappearance at our next annual Witties now that we're on that
The
subject.
best butt is mine. No, mine's the worst. Because it's too much work.
Apparently it is. Anyways.
Yeah, so let's go to our usual segments.
Yes.
Well, we rip off from this month. You go first this time, David.
All right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I have managed to watch a couple of shows in the meantime, which, given that it is November and is longtime listeners and people that know me pretty well know, that happens to also coincide with National Novel Writers Month.
Most writers know that, so yeah.
Well, I don't know how. I'm not sure.
I overheard it once when I was writing my book at another coffee shop, a different one from my work at, but they were talking about Nano and earlier, so that was cool.
Well, that's really neat. No, it's supposed to be big. I really hope that it keeps getting bigger. I don't remember how many participants there were this year, but like in the Denver area, which I joined the Denver region because I'm from that area, not I'm actually
You're
there
not from
right now.
Japan?
No, I'm not.
I mean, I guess you are awfully white.
In the region, the people here make me look like even lighter than usual. Anyway,
right.
Point being though, that the Denver region, altogether, the last time I checked the website, they had almost 20 million words written during the course of the year.
Nice.
So, like, this is actually a big deal because that's only one region out of all the states and all the countries that you can find people participating nano. So, like, anyway, that's not what I'm going to rip off. Let's talk about the shows I'm going to rip off. The one that comes to mind first is a show which originally in Japanese it's called Uchu Keiji Shider. The Uchu is space and Keiji means sheriff or detective, so it literally translates to Space Sheriff Shider.
Nice.
Fun alliteration there. But there are three particular things that I wanted to rip off from it.
Yes.
Their main character wields both a laser blaster and a sword.
Ah, he's like a musketeer, but in space.
Well, I suppose. I need a character who trains with a gun-sword combo, but not just training with a gun-sword combo. Like, I want him to train ambidextrously. So you don't have this weak or strong hand, like you have to hold the sword in your left so you can fire with your right, but you also need to have the sword in your right hand.
So you need to switch. So that means, like, someone could have a gun on one hand and the sword on the other. It doesn't matter which one. They're adept at both.
Exactly. Maybe not, like, great, but adept. So you don't get put at a disadvantage. That's a tactical thing.
Of course.
And, you know, given how many of these ideas naturally dovetail with the other things I've done, it might fit my alter ego best. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Another thing is, I want to have a character who actually refuses to step into some, like, horrible event that they witness, because it's literally outside of their jurisdiction.
Right.
I mean, yeah, they feel awful about it, of course, because it's an awful thing, but they literally can't justify stepping in because of what they're doing. Because I just think that moral quandary would be a really good source of drama for a character. It really help forge them a little bit. Maybe they start, questioning, is it right to ignore that if I'm seeing it, even if it's not my fight?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd really love to mine some of the drama from that.
That's
the third thing. Yeah, the third and final one from this show is that I really want to write a propaganda song.
Nice.
There's this. So the villain faction in this show, they have this cute little thing that every time the occasional reoccurring monsters show up, they play this song, and it's used in the show many times to portray brainwashing.
Nice.
But also, it's just a propaganda song. If you listen to the lyrics and people are trying to, justify that. Like one episode of this series, they had a young band and they brainwashed the band to play this song that was literally espousing anarchy.
Nice.
So yeah, what are parents? What is school? Just rebel. Just do what you want.
Oh, it's like the bunny song from VeggieTales.
Because I totally remember that now. But anyway.
The bunny. Right. I love the bunny. I don't love my mom or my dad, just the bunny. Remember that?
Thank you, Nebuchadnezzar.
Yes.
Because that was the one that
Nebuchadnezzar. Yes. Mr. Nezzar.
Right. Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, you want to hear another propaganda song?
No, we're okay.
Okay. For the land of the free and the home of the brave, says the country with the highest incarceration count, and people who are so afraid from one another it's great. Anyways, go America!
Anyways, I mean, yes, patriotic songs could be viewed as propaganda by other countries. Can't deny that.
I think I'm American, and I think that's totally propaganda. The American exceptionalism thing. Anyways, I know it's not politics, but let's not go into politics.
Please not. I despise talking about them. Anyway,
precisely what I brought that up.
That's the 3 from one series. I also watched another one. This is actually a series that the company Toei, responsible for most of the Japanese tokusatsu that's well known across Japan and the world.
Okay.
But they all collaborated with Marvel on this one.
Nice.
And I have to put air quotes around collaborated because Marvel contributed an idea that was, spun off into the show, but they didn't really have much active involvement. But anyway, the show is an early entry into the Sentai series called Battle Fever J. Not gonna
what happened to Battle Fevers A through I had to think about which one was right before J.
And you're the English major.
Don't even know my own damn alphabet. But
there's no story behind what happened to the previous iterations of this. But they actually don't refer to the team as Battle Fever J. Most of the show, it's just Battle Fever, so that really doesn't particularly matter. But anyway,
of course,
the characters are essentially based on the idea of a patriotic superhero, which
like Captain America.
Marvel, Captain America was the inspiration, but essentially they created Captain Japan as an idea.
Added to the Captain lists like Captain Britain and such.
Right, but they didn't keep that name. That was the starting point, and because the team is Battle Fever, they are named Battle whatever country they represent, with one exception, Miss America.
Oh, right, of course.
Of course, was a female hero from America because they didn't want to, infringe on Captain America's toes. But Battle Fever J was the series that introduced a giant robot into the Sentai franchise.
Nice. Giant robots are always good.
That was a direct result of the previous show that Marvel had worked on with Toei, and that is Toei's version of Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Spider-Man's really popular in Japan.
Yes. Not just the show, the actual character, too.
Right.
But they popularized this giant robot, and so continuing their collaboration with Marvel and basing it on Captain America as opposed to Spider-Man, they kept the giant robot idea and put it into their series.
Wait, does Spider-Man have a giant robot? Is that what you're saying?
In the Japanese version, yes.
Okay, so I take it he's not poor, like he was.
You'd have to watch the series to find out. Because I don't want to take too much time.
Like, it's like if more people get a giant robot, then I could get a giant robot. Like,
but I will say that the Spider-Man that is from the Japanese show is Japanese, not Peter Parker.
No, I know. Oh, it's not Peter Parker. It's not like their version of Peter Parker. Okay.
No.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
So it's not expressly the same thing. Anyway, the reason that I am ripping it off is, don't be afraid to shy away from things that are kind of silly midstream if they don't work.
Of course.
If they work, then fine, keep them. But if they don't work, there's nothing saying you have to continue going back to this well. As the example I'll give you, the character who had a mostly blue suit was Battle France.
Mm-hmm.
And this show was themed around dancing. Don't ask me why, because
were the giant robots dancing?
No, not the robots.
Good, because that would level a city by their tapping.
Well, depends. But essentially, these warriors incorporated thematic dance moves from the areas they were representing. So the 5 warriors, I mentioned Battle Japan and Miss America, and Battle France now. The other 2 are Battle Cossack, which represents the Soviet Union.
Right, the Cossacks,
and Battle Kenya.
Oh, nice.
So those are the 5. But all of them had dance moves that were supposed to be representative of the country they, stood for. Except for Battle France.
They don't have the can-can? That's prime for fighting.
France,
you can just kick people.
Exactly, right? But what they did was they gave him a flamenco-style dance.
That's Spanish.
Exactly. he has a Spanish dance move despite being Battle France.
And again,
the
the
guy literally studied abroad in France
for dance fighting. Just kick.
Anyway, the point I'm making with this, though, is that they did get away from that after adjusting this. After adjusting this thing, they stopped using the dance stuffs because some of them were less suited to actual fighting, and Japan didn't really dance at all.
Right.
But they adjusted this, and for the remaining 3/4 of the season, they blissfully ignored the fact that he had some Spanish-themed dance move despite being from France. Really?
Missed opportunity, the can. Oh, well.
Basically, right?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So, if something's not working, get away from it.
Right.
You don't have to keep it in. Especially if it's just a little, nod. Then there's not particular reason you have to keep going back and referencing it every time if it just doesn't work.
And if it's, especially if it's for a series sort of thing where when you write something that doesn't work, you unfortunately it is out there. The thing it didn't work, but that you can figure out a way to write it out. Yeah, you're not just because you put it onto something that would be published or broadcast, I guess, in this version. It doesn't mean you have to stick with it. Syndicated, yeah.
Correct.
So yeah.
Anyway, that's it for me. Because obviously I was working on Nano, so I didn't get to watch too much stuff.
Well, we'll save that, your Nano stuff, on what will be at the rip have ripped.
But first, what will you rip off from?
Well, thank you, Mr. David. I rewatched with my family Thor Ragnarok, the 17th movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know why I know that.
I'm glad you're keeping track. I haven't paid attention.
Well, they're now at 20, I think, with Ant-Man and the Wasp. So
that's true. Behind on the MCU. Anyway, you're watching Thor Ragnarok.
Yes. Okay. I know some good things from it I could rip off. I've seen this movie before. It's one of my favorites from the Cinematic Universe. I know some good things. Now, the use of exaggerated color, really exaggerated and cheesy 80s style, it's clearly a deliberate throwback, along with the techno music and overall aesthetic. It's clearly a throwback to the 80s, but rather than ripping off the 80s feel of it, though, so many.
Why go back to the future?
Well, oh my god! But so much stuff is ripping off the 80s. And I'm just get over it, folks. The 80s weren't that good. I just have no nostalgia for them. Of course, I was born in the 90s, so...
You weren't even alive! So
but I just, the clothes were obnoxious, the hairstyles sucked, the entertainment was cheesy, the music... Okay, the music was kind of cool, but that doesn't mean that the 80s were good. The 80s were freaking cheesy. Padded shoulders, big mustaches,
Well, okay, big mustaches are kind of cool, but...
Yeah, but they're...
If you can grow them. I can't.
I did once try to do just a mustache. It didn't work.
Well, I mean, again, you have to be able to grow a mustache. Like, I can't do the Tom Selleck at all, but, like, I can get a suitable mustache.
Yeah, my mustaches aren't that big. They're like, it looked like a really creepy little tweak of a mustache when I tried it. So, anyways, so rather than ripping off the 80s, I'd like to rip off the overall sort of not giving a frick about it. Like, we're doing all this crazy stuff and we're not ashamed of it. Like, it has that vibe to it. Like, there's so much ridiculous stuff, like utterly ridiculous. If you look at like the Grandmaster's minions, they are the most obnoxious, the Power Rangers looking.
You say that like it's supposed to be.
It's actually worse than like B-grade Power Rangers stuff. The way that these things look, they are so cheesy looking. But they're doing it like it's like on purpose. Like he has a melt stick that looks like just this plastic prop, but somehow it works. I don't know. But it's probably because, like...
Well, I mean, plastic props run the test of time.
But, like...
They've been used for decades.
It's clear, like, the movie's riding high off the success of the MCU. It doesn't give a frick about how ludicrous all this stuff is. It has a style, and it runs with it, with all guns blazing. Like, and that's something cool. Like, that shows a sense of genuine passion from the movie's creators, like Taika Waititi and the writers and such.
I was about to bring up the director because I wonder how much of this was, him being himself within the framework of the MCU. He's a
very, very wacky guy. Like
he's a very, very wacky guy, and so he infused his own style into it. I don't necessarily think that you can separate that from the final result.
No, exactly. And like, I actually did.
So it's not the movies. It's not necessarily the movie's fault or Chris Hemsworth's fault per se, but I think Taika Waititi had a lot to do with it.
Oh, absolutely.
So that has to be considered too.
Well, like, absolutely. Well, like, and I actually had one of his other movies on What Will We Rip Off from this month a while back. It was called What We Do in the Shadows. It was a vampire mockumentary that he did, and that was really wacky too. And like, I ran out of podcast juice
already.
The show must go on! Anyway, so... It shows a genuine passion with the creators, and I'd like to replicate that in my own works. I mean, if I haven't already with my dinosaurs and laser gun shtick.
Well, you're not ashamed of it, certainly, that's for sure.
Nope. Not at all. I don't give a frick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, considering that you've basically published almost 3... Well, we'll talk more about... Yeah, I know you've got 2, but we'll talk about the third one in a bit.
Alright, anyways. What will we at the Writ Wit have writ? Let's talk about your nano stuff.
What will
we? What have we? What is this show?
What we at the Writ Wit have writ?
What have you writ in this nano shtick writ pit?
This nanorific month. Nanorific month. I did have a really good nano. I actually got a day where I had 10,000 plus words in a single day.
Nice.
Now, to be fair, I'm not going to say all 10,000 of them were quality words, but it was, continual story, so it's not like it's a waste of space.
Right.
But it was so productive that it eclipsed my previous record for wordiest day, and I actually went back and checked the stats. I have been a registered member of the NaNoWriMo website for like 11 years.
Wow, really?
Maybe
cool.
12 years or something like that. Yeah, so in an 11-year career of this, having the wordiest day in my history is not nothing.
It's definitely not nothing.
You're very right.
It ain't not nothing.
I should mention that I did end up working on Captain Rit. That's where the skit came from
Rit
today. The excerpt from that was by far a shortened version, so hopefully it didn't get too crazy.
And it's still... The original recording of it was 30 minutes, guys.
We normally try and record most of our ads. Spoiler alert. We normally record in one session, but that one was such a beast.
Yeah, we took a break.
We had to split it up. I should... so I ended up working on Captain Rit, and, suffice to say, one winner's certificate later, I guess it worked out. I actually finished NaNoWriMo on the 9th.
Nice! You're so damn fast. I don't know how you do it.
With a lot of dedication to purple prose and an honest... but even beyond that, an honest idea of... following my tangents. My brain goes in a
Right.
ton of different directions. I'm sure longtime listeners have realized this by now.
Oh, yeah.
But, in Nano, there is no reason to not, go down those paths.
Yes, exactly.
You allow yourself that, and you automatically get more words. Like, there's one for the skit today.
Right.
I did the Dr. Syntaxulus villain.
Yes.
And because of his gimmick, I basically doubled my word count every single line he talked. Well, no. Well, okay. Okay, not literally doubling the total amount of words, but basically I wrote it twice. I wrote once what he was trying to say, and then I mucked it up on purpose because of his gimmick. So that's twice the words for one line of dialogue. And in that way, you can get pretty...
The lengths you go.
Well, I mean, last year I did a story about a diary. When do you end a diary? Last year I did a story about... oh, gosh. No, not that. Yeah. Not last year. The year before that. I remember
making a joke in the podcast about, like, how the problem with a diary is that you could have someone be like, "Dear diary, I can't wait to write this. I'll see you tomorrow," and then the rest of the book is just blank.
That's true. That is true. But
I don't do diaries, but I feel like if I did do diaries, that would be what I done with them.
I see. Nice alliteration, sir. Even though your grammar ended up being atrocious. But
on
the
purpose.
2 years...
It's okay. I'm an English major. I can allow myself to because I do it intentionally.
You're allowing yourself to muck up grammar. Got it. Anyway.
Because I do it intentionally for the art.
2 years ago, I came up with a story where literally the main character... Like, I never got to writing this part because I finished the word count thing before it. But the eventual reveal was that anytime he made a different decision from the... like mainstream, he would divert into a different reality.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if I even told Donald about this because like it was literally a endless prompt. I could end it when I wanted to, or I could just keep going with it. So
the gimmicks you do in Nano, and not just you, but like generally anyone.
Well, I don't know about anyone. I mean, I can only speak to my own stories, but this
I assume there's a lot of gimmicks people employ to try and get to 50K.
Plot ninjas.
Yeah.
We talked about them before.
For more on that, listen to episode 14!
Anyway, where do you end a story like that? So literally, he'd end up in a reality, and anytime he'd make a different decision than that version of himself, he would divert to yet another reality. So,
sounds not confusing at all.
Oh, it's entirely confusing, but that's part of the joy of having him try and figure it out during the story.
Well, right, of course.
Which I never got to because, again, I was so wordy that I didn't need to finish writing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's very common. Well, like, last year I finished Shattered Creek, which I originally had started as a Nano project based on a short story that I did long before this, but because of my bad habits with, quantity over, properly starting, continuing, ending the book in one month, I needed another run at Nano to finish the full story. So, I'm a pretty verbose guy.
I do know.
I don't apologize for that, although it can be quite
you better
challenging.
Not, because you don't give a frick.
I don't give a frick. Anyway, how about you, Donald?
All right, well, guess.
Well, let's see. More on the more on the final Megazoic book for sure.
Ding, ding, ding! You win 0 points.
Exactly. Okay, so let's see if I can get the next one. You're still working on editing the third one?
Nope. It's already edited. It's already all the illustrations are done. I'm literally just waiting for the proof copy. Hopefully the final proof copy to come in. I do one final check, and if it's good, it'll be published. Certainly by the next episode of the podcast, it will be published. I will be a triple-time author.
I don't think anybody uses triple time in that phrasing.
I don't know what the phrasing is.
That's really cool. Three-time. But anyway.
3-time. Okay, fine. I'll be a 3-time author.
Anyways, that's really cool. I don't need to take away from that accomplishment.
Well, of course. Well, thank you. It's pretty good.
Well, especially because, I mean, you followed through your passion all the way to the end of it. Like, you've published
Well,
even
not quite
the
the end of
sequel
it. This is a
already.
4-book series, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you're working
Like-
on the final book,
Yes.
so you're seeing it all the way through. That's really neat.
I am. Well, thanks. No, I'm definitely working my butt off trying to get this done because, like,
Something about you need to work it out, right?
yeah, exactly. Work out this butt. Ugh, it still hurts. Ugh. I hope I don't have to sit this way for too long. I want my slouching back. I know it'll just get me right back to where I started, but damn it, I gotta slouch.
I was about to say it doesn't solve your problem, but anyways, anything else that's not necessarily like written word progress? Because
I'm thinking about starting a YouTube account. I might make some progress on it. You're probably in the next few weeks or so. After watching several other writers' channels, I came up with some really good ideas I can put on there. Like,
writers have channels on YouTube, but okay.
Yeah, no, quite a few of the authors do. Like, they talk.
Well,
about
is
things.
it more like a Q&A type video type thing, or is it like, oh, they're making a lot of content all the time, which takes away from the writing time?
Q&A, content about like their writing, content about others' writing, like favorite certain like pet peeves, not favorite pet peeves, like, you know, favorite tropes, worst pet peeves, you know, stuff like that. I could do something like that, and I could add dinosaur twists to it, or I could just add my own sort of kooky twist to do the thing. Like a
I have the answer. You should do Bionicle because that would make you practically unique.
Oh, no, there's Bionicle YouTube channels, so...
How many? Because I could think there probably aren't more than...
I follow quite a few. The Shadowed One, I think, is one. It's the Shadowed One, and then the number 1.
Oh. I don't know how many...
It's a good one. And they do, these top 10 lists about...
Considering how Bionicle is faded out of the collective conscious, I'd be amazed
it's actually not as much as you think. Like, these videos where they talk about top 10 certain characters of certain things, they get, like, tens of thousands of views. It's nothing, like, big and viral, but it's enough to make a decent chunk of cash off of these videos. And, by people... It's at the point now people are very nostalgic about Bionicle. Like, even the newer Bionicle stuff.
Even the newer Bionicle stuff, because, like everybody else, they hate Hero Factory, right? I'm kidding.
Right.
It's a good thing
It's
a good thing our episode isn't sponsored by Lego, because we would have lost our sponsorship.
You know, Hero Factory, the sets aren't that bad, but the story is atrocious.
I was about to say.
And of course, keep in mind,
so
Lego
similar.
is surprisingly what?
I was about to say that the Hero Factory, because it basically looks like it should be a continuation of Bionicle for all but the fact they didn't want to continue the story, and that's like the only thing.
Right.
To me. Now, whether that's fair or not, I'm sure there are more like business related decisions that go into that, and I don't know those. But
I think it's because the story of Bionicle was a one-time story, and it got so it lasted for 8 years, and it's meant for like a 3-year gap. Like 9 to 12 was the official age range, and when your thing lasts 9 to 12 years, you know, it's hard to sustain. It's hard to get new fans for something so big and complicated. Anyways, we're not talking about Bionicle. So.
But it's an interesting conversation to have, because how do you draw new fans? That's a topic for maybe a different episode of this podcast, or maybe not even this podcast.
Clearly they do it by making Hero Factory. But anyways, but Lego is first and foremost a toy line, so if the Hero Factory...
But, you know, they keep building new things. It's kind of why Power Rangers has continued to be a thing, because they keep making new shows.
Merchandising. Spaceballs, the lunchbox.
The flamethrower.
The kids love this one.
Anyway, so you're talking about doing a YouTube account.
I just basically it could be fun. It's great publicity if done right. So I'd put all these episodes on there. Probably I wouldn't do them all at once. I'd go every week. I'd post a new episode until I get caught up on how many there are, and so.
Well, it wouldn't take you terribly long, but
hey,
this is only episode 27.
It would take me 6 months.
This is only episode 27.
Right, but if I do it once a week, it'll take me 6 months to have all of them. So.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what you're going to do with the visuals, because obviously this is a audio
There won't
medium.
be any visuals. There might be clips of it with visuals.
I was about to say you probably could do like a static shot, the picture that you use for the podcast, and then just
but I was also thinking about doing adding little things per what the topic of the episode is.
Well, the other thing that I was thinking of, if you could, you know, creatively do this without infringing on copyright or anything, you could throw in a picture of, say, if we talked about Harry Potter, you could have the book cover pictured for a few seconds or whatever.
They do that all the time for
I know.
YouTube things. I need to check what exactly the legal issue
Yeah,
with
that's
it was.
the thing, though.
Because I've seen people do that all the time, like thumbnails for podcasts where it's about, like, say, Spider-Man.
Well,
they have a picture of
thumbnails,
Spider-Man.
I believe you have to be like a premium member, like you have to pay in to do that. But these are professional content creators. I believe that's
I don't know.
the case.
I'll look into that. I think it's like since fair use because you're not talking. I don't know. Well, I'll get in. I'll look into it. But anyways, that's
something you should writ.
I will writ.
Because we still haven't figured out what writting actually means.
We'll never know. It's part of the mystery of it all. Anyways, shall we move on to our topic?
Y64. But yes, with that said,
what's a real mystery? And anyone who figures out what writting means would be a real hero in my eyes.
Would. Yes, we couldn't do it without a forced segue.
I'm so cool.
You're so over cool. Anyway,
I don't give a frick.
Speaking of over, we were coming up with like character types, archetypes, tropes, whatever you want to call them, but it just got unwieldy. There are so many like minor roles that you could name, and true with all the properties out there. There are lots of different types of heroes, absolutely. But originally, we were going to try and just talk maybe a couple sentences about each one, and I thought that was a little bit too boring. So we came up with some broader categories, or as I called them, the oversimplification categories. Now these are types of heroes. Keep in mind. So if your favorite type or personality is not mentioned, please keep in mind that we're trying to include everything, but it's not entirely
possible. But we're
possible.
human. We make mistakes, so...
Yes. We don't happen to be this first one, which is the perfect.
Yeah. Nice. Good little segue there.
Hey, it wasn't nearly as forced as yours.
So,
anyway.
I revel in the forcedness of my segues.
You do.
I don't give a frick. Okay.
You obviously don't. So,
nope.
Rather than read all the categories by name, although it'd be pretty obvious, we're going to do them as we talk about them. So the first one is
so
the
first
perfect.
we got the perfect, and the definition is like they're so good at being good that they're too good. This is basically, if you do this incorrectly, it's Mary Sue's, but there can be well-written ones here. I maintain that they're well-written ones here. They're usually side characters. Just because, it's hard to do this as a main character.
If you have it as the main character, it's a little too self-aggrandizing, but if it's the side character that only shows up every so often, they just, they're the paragon, but they aren't ever present.
I think the best example, I think, of a character that is like this, that is actually kind of well-rounded, is Captain America in the MCU. He's got a really unwavering moral compass, and he's very, very powerful and very strong, but he also, he's also in a much worse world, and then that doesn't really deserve someone like him, and he knows it, and it bothers him, and he sometimes goes to bad lengths to get what he wants done, but it's ways because he knows that what is right, even what the world is saying is wrong. So it's interesting. So
to throw out the other things that I included with his definition that Donald was not nice enough to read for us, including
I like to save it for you.
including generally several hidden talents, like this guy is also an amazing musician, but it never comes up because they're a superhero.
Apparently, Captain America's a good artist. I've heard. So
well, I wouldn't know, but there you go, hidden talents. Idolized by fans and other characters since, by comparison, they seem godly. Again, we talked about this, if they do it as a main character, it becomes very wish fulfillment, Mary Sue, Gary Stu territory. So they have little dark side or negative traits to speak of. Doesn't mean they have none, just that they're extremely minimized, either as a choice or just as a function of who they are.
Right. So we got some examples here. We got Golden Age Superman, the old-style Prince Charmings.
Yeah, we're the ones who are always, seeking out their lovely
to be fair, those aren't usually the main characters, so they're
not.
They're the trophies for the princesses.
They're usually focused on the princesses, which, speaking of princesses, the last example...
Yeah, we got Snow White, who's literally the fairest of them all.
I mean, you can't get fairer than that.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to add Rey from the new Star Wars movies. She's just so good at everything without training and without even trying. What a compelling character!
Are you suggesting that all of these characters aren't compelling in that way?
Yep. There's a reason why Golden Age Superman was only in the Golden Age. And New 52 stuff is different.
They keep trying, but the problem is that because of what came before, it's really hard to cleave too far away from that without fans kind of like, but it's not Superman anymore. There's a reason they call him the boy. There's a reason they call him the Big Blue Boy Scout.
Well, it's like, for someone who is the perfect, he is a flawed character in terms of, not in terms of, I mean, like, in story, but out of story. Like, how can you write someone like him? Like, out of universe, he is a flawed character because he is too perfect. Irony.
That's the thing. He's too perfect. And
it's
that's
just not
why
interesting.
they changed it. That's why they changed it in later eras of comic books.
Right.
But anyway, so that's one type of category. Obviously, there are some
perfect.
Subcategories, and we're not going to exhaustively list every single possible hero because, frankly, there are tons we don't know about to think of. So, next one, the flawed. Think selfish. Think power hungry. But they're heroes.
These are interesting main characters if they're the heroes.
Exactly. To throw out the definition that I came up with, they may not have the best reasons for doing the hero shtick, but they grow into heroes.
Right, yes.
Because obviously you could look at this as like the home of antagonists, but since we're not talking about villains this time...
Nope, we've talked about them twice already.
Yep, Revenge of the Villains. For more on that, listen to episode, which one was it of the...
I think it was 24. Wait, no, that was the one with Lexi. I think it was 23.
Ding?
I'm going to say... Yeah, like ding.
Ding.
How am I gonna edit in that ding? I don't...
Just leave mine in because it's not quite the right.
I think what I'll do is I'll have the normal ding, but then somehow smoothly transition it into your ding.
Such a forced ding. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Oh, I forgot.
I should know.
I forgot. Speaking of which,
better.
what if we are doing the YouTube channel and it hasn't come up yet? Should we pull a foghorn for it?
Yeah!
Man, if we were a real ship and that was a foghorn for an iceberg, we would have hit it so many times already.
By now, yeah.
Like, by the way, as we're singing, by the way, there was...
You know we can finally do... You know what you can finally do on those YouTube videos? You can do a cheap plug counter in the bottom corner.
And then I can also, like... wink at the camera and then smile and then like do that cheesy freeze frame. It's gonna be great.
Wait, how it? Oh, you do that separately. But anyways,
back to our characters.
Back to the flawed. So, there are quite a few flaws that happen. They reoccur, like a little too much pride. Mm-hmm. They harm others, even though they're trying to do good. Which obviously sometimes it's unavoidable. I mean, Superman cannot save everybody, right? But honestly, another one that comes up a lot is addiction. Right.
Like alcoholism or like drugs.
Exactly. We'll talk, or maybe it's something a little less...
Sitting
not that those
and
are
ruining your butt, slouching.
Sure, that's your addiction, as opposed to like soda or something, right? Anyway,
I quit soda, so...
Well, what were you drinking, podcast juice?
Hey, I've quit soda so well I can have the occasional soda and not make it be an issue. So
apparently. But anyway, so
I used to drink like 8 cans a day, so believe me, I'm better than I was.
I never denied that you're better than you were. I'm just laughing. Anyways.
Okay. Nope, laughing is not allowed. This is a serious podcast.
Apparently, we're odd enough that we're not regular, as something else came up.
That was you misinterpreting.
That's a different conversation. You could have used the word, like, more frequent.
Regular. Like, it's like...
Okay, really. Regular show. The regular show was not regular.
Yeah, it was.
So that's not a perfect descriptor. Oh, my God. Anyway...
The flawed! Get back to that!
Because we are very flawed humans. Troubled history that you can't escape, and other things along that line. So some examples here. You might have recognized some as we mentioned these flaws, like with the troubled history, you can't help but think of Black Widow. She's always trying to erase the red from her ledger, right?
Yes, and also Iron Man, the alcoholism.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Selling the weapons to pretty much anyone.
Yeah, sorry, I got one thing. We did come up with a bunch... I had to say, I came up with a bunch of titles for this, and there's one that I love that I did, and I want to keep it for Iron Man, so I'm going to share it with you guys now, and that is Public Icon, Private Asshole.
Instead of a private eye, it's a private asshole. It's another body part.
Well, no, it wasn't. Well, I mean, hopefully
I know.
that body part stays private. No, I was referring to, in
I don't want a public
situations.
asshole. No.
In situations where you are secure by yourself or with people you trust, you rail into other people and things you don't like. Those people
Right.
who always talk bad about you and you can't defend yourself. But in the public eye, they are so respected. Because look at Tony Stark, a self-made man, billionaire, genius, playboy philanthropist.
Yes.
And so, he would be a public icon. But he has a
Yes.
ton of bad habits. And not to say that Tony Stark is particularly bad-mouthing people all the time. But if
Right.
you look at what he does in his personal life,
He can
he's
certainly be a
pretty
bit smug.
awful. He's pretty awful. He can't
Yeah.
stay with women too terribly long because they either loathe him, or he's just done using them. And that's not a great quality to have.
Well, another example that I think that is like this is James Bond. He's an amazing agent. He's definitely got, a repertoire. I mean, James Bond. People are like, oh, some
Exactly.
secret agent he is, which
Shaken,
leads
not
to
stirred.
which leads to the theory that James Bond is just a code name that you get when you're assigned to get assigned that name when you're Agent 007, which is
And 006 doesn't have the name, so yeah, I suppose it works.
yeah.
and that would
That way you can
also
also justify
explain-
all the different James Bonds. You can make them all in the same continuity because they're actually different agents. So.
Exactly. You could
Plus, that would
actually
make sense
cast
why he would
Idris-
constantly be telling people he's Bond, James Bond. Aren't you supposed to be a secret agent? But if that's a code name, then that... it's a good
Well-
fan theory, I think.
It is. I think it really fits. But that also allows for casting Idris Elba, who I think would be a perfect James Bond, but he doesn't
Actually,
involve in white.
I saw this skit someone did. It was Trevor Noah, and he's a black man.
Yes.
He talked about why it actually wouldn't be a good casting choice. At first, he was like, "Oh yeah, it'd be a good casting choice." And people were like, "Oh, but he's black," and they're like, racism." But then someone pointed out he realized when he went to Scotland himself, it is 99.999% white, and he is a
Right.
spy. Any chase scene of him
Yeah.
in Scotland would be like,
Oh,
him trying
there's
to
the target.
Run away. The bad guys look around for 5 seconds, be like, "There he is." It'd be over in 10 minutes. And no, this is my
suppose-
joke, by the way. This is Trevor Noah's joke.
Yes, I figured that out because you mentioned this skit. But anyway,
I was like, you know what? You know what would actually be good, and I know that a good black character to be signed as black. And I know there's Miles Morales, but Peter Parker, because New York is very diverse.
that is true. But obviously, they did make Miles Morales, so there is
Right.
that.
So yeah,
argument as
exactly.
well.
Who is black? But in case the listeners don't know.
Hispanic
Is he?
black, I believe.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know.
I know, no,
He's-
he is black, but I believe he also has Hispanic heritage as well. I can't remember right off the
Nope.
top of my
Everyone's
head.
only one race. No mixed. No.
No mixes. Well, what am I supposed to be? Anyways,
You're a mutt. You're also really, really white. So
I am really, really white because it's mostly European, but I'm a mutt. But anyways,
anyway,
examples of flawed superheroes.
we need to get through this flawed thing.
Because we keep dwelling on our own, diverging into different topics. Daredevil.
Yes. Booster Gold.
Booster Gold. I brought this one up because he literally comes back from his time to make it seem like he's a superhero, but other than that, he's really not. I mean, he becomes
Right.
one. He grows into the role, but he does it all as stroking his own ego. That's
Right.
a flaw. I'm sorry, that's a flaw.
Right, exactly.
Speaking of stroking his own ego, and another thing that's not comic book related, in a game that we both happen to love,
Captain Quark from Ratchet and Clank.
if you've never played those games, I'm sure you could look up at least a couple of cutscenes somewhere and see just how egotistical this guy is, and you know exactly why we put him here.
And the
So,
company
yeah.
by new exercise book, Body by Quark.
Anyway,
There's probably
it's
better
a
examples I
lovely.
could have said.
There's a. Who else could have these gorgeous glutes or whatever?
These
it was?
rock hard abs, these
The
chiseled
rock hard abs.
features, these impeccable glutes and bulbous buttocks.
All right. Speaking, we're on a roll today with those butt jokes, aren't we?
My butt still
Anyhow.
hurts.
Well, stop thinking
My
about
butt
it.
hurts.
Start thinking about
Literally.
the next category, which is the fated.
I'm fated to always have a bad butt.
Depends. Do you keep slouching?
But not like a badass. That's different. That's...
Depends. Do you keep slouching? The fated.
Badasses slouch, I say, because they don't give a frick.
The fated are chosen by forces beyond their control.
The
Their
chosen
grapple
one.
with accepting or avoiding their role defines the character's growth.
Right.
Something that's really common in this group, the character questions if their choice has any meaning, because the fate versus free will argument will never be universally solved.
Right.
Some writers will write it differently within different works. Like in one book, they'll tout, "Oh, well, you have free will, so make your choice." And then in a different book that with other characters, they'll say, "But you already have a fate from the moment you're born." So, like, we're never going to solve this. But because of that, it gives a lot of room for these characters to question it as they are, spinning their own stories.
Right. So, like, examples of this would be, like, Harry Potter. Obviously, he's the chosen one, although it could be Neville, too, which is kind of a fun twist.
I really did like that twist, by the way, though. That was really cool, because it kind of legitimized Neville.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, have you seen the actor, what he grew up into?
Are we going to... Never mind.
And then we also got Aragorn. I don't know if this is, like, fated by, like, the gods, but it's fated more, like, by his lineage. Like, he,
Well, how do you define fate? It has different meanings. And again, this is not a catch-all. This is more of a... We try and reference as different types of heroes. Thus, we have various characters.
But, like, honestly, Aragorn, because he's in Lord of the Rings, by the way, in case people don't know, which they would, but who, just
You'd
for context sake. He's the heir to Isildur, and therefore the heir to the throne of Gondor. But, thanks to Isildur being like, you know what, I'm going to keep the ring, despite having that one opportunity to destroy it, he kind of feels guilt. It's like, am I like this? And, like, seeing how Sauron is back anyways, he's like, am I really the right choice for, leading Gondor in this most crucial moments? And eventually, of course, he realizes, yes, hence the literal name of the third Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. But,
where he finally steps up into his role and leads them to victory.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, I think that one aspect that it would have been really fascinating to see if Tolkien had explored, and I don't think he did, if somebody possesses the ring for long enough, does the qualities that it bestows upon you, do they become inherited by your descendants?
I don't know. I don't think anyone has the ring long enough to have kids while having the ring, so...
Fair. But I'm just thinking, like, if Isildur kept the ring, obviously he did, but if he
kept
he
did
the ring
until
long
he died.
Enough,
like,
if he kept the ring long enough that all of his kids were affected by his mindset that had already been impacted by the ring, and they... I
don't think it was literally they were affected by it. I just was like, I think Aragorn was thinking it might be something in his, in his air, like, he has that quality to become corrupted because it's in his family, is basically...
Well, I mean, if you're born into a family of addicts, you're more likely to have addiction problems.
Well, like, if Gollum managed to meet a female Gollum, and they had a bunch of little Gollumettes...
Let's find out! Would they kill their father for the ring? Anyway.
Probably, the ring...
My precious.
My precious. No, my precious. No, my precious. Blah, 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 blah.
Anyways, I mean, it's kind of like the history of the Elder Wand. You can trace it very easily because it's usually got a very loud history. I suppose that would be a pretty loud battle for the ring in that case. But anyway.
Anyways, another example we have is Anakin Skywalker, who is also the flawed, but in this instance...
he's obviously... by the time he gets to be Vader, we can talk about him as a villain, so let's just focus on the fact that he's the one who's expected to bring balance to the Force.
Right, exactly.
That's completely beyond his control. And he starts learning the ways of the light side, but then he's tempted by the dark because of things that happened to him or around him, and so, he ends up following the fate, going from light to dark, and inadvertently living up to his destiny.
Yep, you were the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. As Obi-Wan says.
I do want to throw out something that came to mind here.
Yes.
That as we were coming up with examples for this one is extremely, well, I suppose Star Wars is a movie more than literature, but this is very literature heavy.
Right.
And
well, I mean, Star Wars is kind of meant to be like a fairy tale out in space. So
well, it's soap opera in space, but anyway. space opera.
Well, hence why it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which is like long ago in a kingdom far, far away. So
Exactly.
it's basically that. So anyways, yeah, sorry,
But here's the question. Is this something that is exclusive to more literature than, say, like, comic books? Because I honestly can't think of too many comic book... Like, yes, a lot of heroes
sometimes
feel
Superman
the call,
is put that way, is made that way.
Feel the call on themselves to follow this path, but that's still a choice they make, I think, as opposed to something they're pulled in because of these puppeteers, not talking about manipulators here, but like the forces of fate that govern the universe and pull all the tapestry together are tugging you in this direction. That's not really the case. And so I think what I'm
everyone I can
trying
think of
to
is like a
here,
choice by them. Even Superman, they had a purpose for him, the Kryptonians, to putting him on Earth, but he could have just said, you know what, no. So
he could have chosen not to be Superman. He chose to make himself into the hero.
Right, exactly. So yeah.
You know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that this tends to work in fantasy far more than it works in, like, typical superhero fare.
Right.
Where fate is usually a force that's generally named. I mean, look at
what about
Greek
Ghost
dramas.
Rider?
Well, that's a force beyond his control, but...
Yeah, like the devil chooses people, right?
That is true. That is true. I suppose that's a good example.
But
The
also,
thing
that's a more
come
fantasy
to
comic
mind-
book, so that makes sense.
Well,
it
right,
kind of plays in
and-
your point.
Obviously, within comic books, there are lots of different directions as well. And because you interrupted me with Ghost Rider, I just lost the example that I had. Thanks.
Sorry.
I thought of a really
Johnny
really good
Blaze
one. Now I can't
strikes
remember who it
again.
was.
Nope.
Yeah. Talking about Star Wars, not Star Trek. That had nothing to do with it.
We're talking about Superman. I'm leaving all this in, by the way.
Please don't. Oh my God, who in the hell was it? I hate when I do this to myself.
Oh, let's just move on, and it'll probably come to the middle.
Got it. I got it. Okay.
It was Ghost Rider. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, because fate is a character, right? And you see that a lot in old-timey Greek, Roman plays.
Oh, yes, of course.
So how about the legend of
Hercules.
Oedipus Rex?
Oh, yeah. No.
Oedipus is fated.
Yes.
It is predicted that he will kill his father and sleep with his mother. And, you know, he tries to... And
Well,
his
it's actually...
parents,
his father gets the
parents
prediction that his son will kill
discard
him and usurp him.
Right. So his father gets rid of the son.
But
And
then...
inadvertently, that helps the fate work. So, you know, if fate is a force to be feared in your story, then this works.
Right.
But I don't think fate hovers over typical superhero fare such that you only really find these in fantasies.
Right. Well, it's
Or
just
that
because
kind
it's
of
not
literature.
interesting. Like... I don't think anyways.
Anyway, we talked about the fated, the ones who are chosen by forces beyond their control. Let's go to the complete opposite extreme and talk about the impossible.
Yeah, they're out of left field, like they... Yeah.
This
Describe
player
it better,
becomes
David.
important. This player comes from left field, becomes important, which, I'm sorry, if you don't understand the out of left field phrase, it's completely random, in other words.
Right.
They learn more about themselves than they thought possible. By definition, you don't have many powered heroes end up here.
This is basically someone... Yeah, go on.
However, I do have to point out that given all the miraculous accidents that gave Flash his super speed, that gave the Hulk his form, you know, I guess they could be considered. They could be considered here, I suppose. But I'm thinking more along the lines of, like, everyday average Joes. The example that first came to mind when I did this was Kick-Ass.
Ah, yes. Well, it's just like, it's really any unlikely hero who steps up to do something and learns something more about himself. In another Lord of the Rings example, we got, like, Frodo Baggins.
Right.
We also got Katniss Everdeen, I think. I actually haven't seen or read Hunger Games, so...
So professional.
Have you?
Not like I have either. No, I haven't, but I'm just saying we're going to go ahead and include her, even though neither of us know a dang thing about it.
And also, you know, we got, like, I thought this was a funny example, like Emmett from the Lego movie. he is technically the chosen one, the special, but really,
But
they find out the prophecy
but it's
is...
completely out of left field.
Yeah,
It's a
also-
random Lego figurine. It could have been any one of them. It turned out
Well, and
to
also,
be
like Morgan Freeman's character, if I forget his name, Vitruvius, said even, like, he made up the prophecy. So it's like... It was nothing.
Alright,
It was
fair enough.
nothing true. But it's like all anyone needed to be special was to believe they could be. So Emmett was
suppose-
basically just anyone who happened to be at the right place at the right time. So, and then also another character I have here is good old Cortan from Megazoic.
Buy it on Amazon.com!
Cheap plug.
Or buy the sequel, The Primeval Power, on Amazon.com.
And then hopefully in a week or so, buy the third
Megazoic,
book.
The Hunted Ones, on Amazon.com. Sorry.
No worries.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Cortan is here because like basically he happens to be like his friend gets captured. I mean, like it's something that he goaded his friend into, and so he feels responsible. So he's like, you know what? I'm not qualified to do this, but damn it, I'm going to do it anyways. And so,
Right.
and he ends
So
up
he chooses that, but he randomly becomes, like, it could have been anybody. It ended
could
up
have.
being Cortan.
like anyone who did exactly what he did could have done that too. Yeah. So
I guess if we want to talk about it like is the it could have been anyone shtick, that the miraculous accidents don't really qualify here by that measure.
right. Well, those could have been anyone too. Like
Yeah, again, these are just oversimplified.
like if anyone
There are
got bit by
probably way
that
more
spider,
things
they
that
could have
we
become
can't-
Spider-Man.
Or
It
they
just
could have
happened to
died.
bite Peter Parker. But yeah, they could have died too. But
Another one that I came up with, and I don't think Donald really agreed with me on this, was Mulan.
no, I think Mulan fits. She's a
Well,
woman
like-
in a very, very sexist Chinese country. I mean,
A
China.
very patriarchal society.
Right, exactly. Who
And,
her father
you know-
will die if he goes to war, so she goes in his place, disguising herself as like this previously unknown son. So
Exactly. And it's one of those things that she literally makes this decision spur of the moment, which is another thing, like, out of left field, right?
right,
She decides to do it, and it works out for the better for just
Exactly.
about everybody involved. But, that's not predictable.
yeah,
Unlike these predictions that make Anakin the chosen one and why people were so desperately searching for him, why Harry Potter falling off the grid was so scary for the wizarding community, like Aragorn trying not to be
what
he
Isildur
was called to be. No, what he was
Oh, I
called
see.
to be because
Right.
of his heritage.
Right.
That scares people.
yeah.
When it's predicted that they will, it's like, oh gosh, we have this prediction, but they're nowhere to be found. They're not doing what's expected, so that's really, fear of the unknown kind of
right,
thing.
right.
But the unknown is where you get a lot of good stories. Like, I personally like Kick-Ass because he doesn't really have powers. He just decides to be a hero.
Isn't he like really durable? Or is that just in the movie?
Kind of, but it's not a superpower in a way. It's actually, if I remember correctly, he's not, and that's what makes it even more compelling.
Okay, I think somehow in the movie he gets into this horrible accident, and then somehow his bones get reinforced by some sort of medical thing.
Oh, now that you mention it, I think there might have been something like that.
But like he can't really fight
Anyway.
any better. He just can just take more of a beating.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, the final category of the oversimplification categories that we talked about before this is the straddler.
Yes.
And
So
since
who is
most
this
people
guy?
of
Where does their allegiance lie? What do they do? They're a real wild card.
Exactly. They freely waver between morality and immorality. They don't really linger much on either side if they have the choice.
Right.
Their actions, they might be heroic or maybe even questionable.
Yes.
And without deeply knowing them personally, it's hard to tell where they truly fall.
Right.
Anti-heroes, most
Yes.
likely to come here, by the
Yeah,
way.
of course.
I mean, yeah, you could argue they belong in flawed, but here's the difference between this and the flawed. A trait or some habit could be considered a flaw, whereas this is a choice that they're making and constantly changing.
Exactly. and we have other usual more comic booky examples like Deadpool, Wolverine, the MCU version of Valkyrie.
Well, because the MCU version, they explicitly went away from the one that was already existent in the comics. That's why we had to specify that
But
here.
like a non-comic book example is Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. So a lot of times
Which was a very good example.
yeah, like he never really know where his allegiances lie, and like even in the first movie,
Unless you knew him.
exactly.
If you knew him personally, you could figure it out. But everyone else, they were bewildered by all the crazy things he was doing.
well, and like
One
that-
moment being a pirate, and then the next showing some noble streak that nobody really suspected that actually exists.
I mean, there was that great line in the first movie where Elizabeth was like, "Whose side is Jack on?" And then Will's like, "At the moment."
His own. Well, I was going to say his own is probably the best answer.
Well, of course, but like, exactly. So yeah, I think he's a good example. He's basically Jack Sparrow's a good example of like someone who seemed like who could just be the wacky sidekick, end up being the main character. So
that is true.
I think it was originally written to be the sidekick.
Speaking of pirates, though, would
Yeah.
you put Will Bloom in The Fated then?
Will Bloom? You mean Will Turner, played by Orlando Bloom?
Sorry, thank you.
I mean, they
Hey,
did.
at least I didn't say Leopold Bloom.
That's true. He's an accountant, and he's here to do your books. Bialystok and
Sorry,
Bloom.
Will Turner. Is
Yeah.
he fated?
I mean, he was. I think he was supposed to be. I don't really remember what happened in the second two Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but Tia Dalma kept saying,
Well-
"A touch of destiny about you," so she clearly knew something. But
Well, okay, Tia Dalma was saying that there's a touch of destiny, but how much do we ascribe to that being fate so much as the connections he already had? Because, of course, Bootstrap Bill was already on Barbossa's crew when the Black Pearl thing happened.
and then he ended up being on Davy
When
Jones's
they took the
crew
treasure.
because he wanted to be saved from the fate of being cursed, but being stuck in the bottom of the ocean. So, and Davy Jones came along and was like, "Do you fear death?" And he's like, "By God, yes! Get me on your ship."
Right. But here's the thing, though. Like, how much of this fate that touches Will do you ascribe to his father or him?
No, I think it's more for Will. I mean, Will Jr.
All right. I'm honestly not sure. So
I don't know
that's
either.
why-
I honestly think it was just luck. Like, well,
To be fair, there's always a lot of that goes into these things.
yep. There is
However,
a lot. Speaking of which, there's
I
so
mentioned-
much that we might need like a catch-all sort of thing.
Well, your segue works too.
Yeah, I don't know. What, did you have
Yeah,
one?
so, well, I was going to say, like, well, now that you've already done it, there's no point in doing mine. Never mind. Jerk.
Yeah, I don't give a frick. Catchphrase of this
Obviously
podcast.
not. Apparently.
Of this episode.
Well,
anyways.
this episode anyway.
Exactly.
So, because there are a ton of things out there, we did not talk extensively about great examples.
Hopefully
There
we
are
gave
probably
like a
several
little
we
bit of an
missed.
idea.
But, what if there are things that we can't really include in these above categories?
Right.
The catch-all, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, for lack of a better term, this is the umbrella, and
yes.
this is where they all belong. Don't add us, there are tons. Because, like, seriously, all the other examples we didn't mention.
Yep.
Oh,
but
and
there
by
was a
the
whole
way,
list that we
for-
did beforehand. It was pretty extensive.
Yes. It was pretty extensive. Like, just to read you some of the titles that don't nicely cookie-cutter fit into these above categories. We talked about Den Mother.
Yes.
The
Peacemaker.
team mom. Vigilante,
Yep.
which I suppose is like anti-hero, but never mind.
I don't know. Well, I mean, it
And
could be
there's
either
one-
or.
And there's one more that I want to talk about a little bit more in depth, and that is the legacy hero.
Yes.
The legacy hero thing, because there are different ways to approach this. There's, your generation's Flash. So depending on when you grew up, Barry Allen is a Flash, or Wally West is a Flash, or maybe even Jay Garrick is the Flash.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, Garrick, yeah.
And so, but that's one example where they live in different universes, and there are some where you actually.
By the way, guys, sorry if you can hear my
inherit
bird. I know
power.
he's starting to make noise here, so I might try to edit him out, but we'll see. Oh, hello.
Hi, Penny. No, actually, I didn't hear it until you said that. So.
Oh, okay. I just noticed he started making noise. He's starting to get a little fussy. He's like, finish the damn podcast already. I want to go to bed. Sorry, go on.
We're working on it.
We are.
Anyway.
Hold on, Penny. Hold your feathers.
Legitimate inherited power. For example, obviously the Flash got updated and renewed. That's why they needed new characters.
Right.
But DC strove to make them different characters opposed to simply, filling the slot.
Right.
They didn't make Barry Allen the Flash just to have a Flash. They made Barry Allen the Flash to tell Barry Allen's story.
Right, exactly.
As the Flash.
And same thing with, like, Miles Morales versus Peter Parker, so...
Same thing with Green Lantern. You'd find this a lot more in DC than Marvel, I will say that.
I mean, Marvel's kind of getting there now with their...
Marvel's getting there now.
Like,
with
I think-
changing Captain America's
Yeah, I was
and
going to say, I
Thor's
think...
and Iron
Who's
Man's.
Captain America now? Isn't it who the Falcon was? Sam Wilson?
Well,
isn't Sam Wilson Captain America now?
They reverted that one fairly recently. It's Steve Rogers again.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh, that's right, because of like the Hail Hydra controversy that we talked about before.
Yes, that we talked about. No, but Sam Wilson was Captain America for quite some time, which, I mean, it's obvious progress, right? The Captain Marvel role has gone to now Carol Danvers, but originally it was a male.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing. And
then Thor was a woman for a bit, so...
Right, so it's not like Marvel isn't doing this at all, but DC had the jump on them by years because they needed to make the characters not seemingly age less.
Right, well, like, how many people have been Batman? You got, like, Bruce Wayne, but you also have, who else?
Dick Grayson, Damian Wayne, Azrael. It just depends on what...
Who was the Batman in Batman Forever? I know it's a different type of Batman, but it's still considered Batman. What? Not Batman Forever, Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond was Terry McGinnis.
That's right, yeah. And then Bruce Wayne was his Alfred, which I thought was kind of cool.
It was a neat, full circle moment. However, that was a character that came from a TV show, and they ended up inducting him into the comic book universe proper later on.
Well, that's like Harley Quinn was that same way. She was from that original anime series. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's series.
Well, also, weren't there some alternate universe ones where Thomas Wayne was Batman?
Yep. And Martha Wayne was the Joker in that
That's
universe,
right.
too.
It's so weird.
I think it was Flashpoint.
Right. But then you also got, like, Superboy and Aqualad and...
Right. And DC, as I said, they do a great job of this. However, DC also has the thing with sidekicks, and Marvel, the sidekicks don't have a series of the same named characters being, always present. Bucky became Falcon, but not the same character.
Well, Bucky also became Winter Soldier, so...
That's true. That's true. So. However, that's comic books. They handle it by either updating the characters and somehow then, like, the Flash family, for example.
Right.
But in, say, famous tokusatsu series Ultraman,
yes,
these are people that would otherwise have no relation on Earth who inherit power to fight against evil.
Right.
Does that make them a legacy hero?
Possibly. I don't know. It depends on if it was
because so here's the question.
Yeah.
Does it matter where that power comes from?
Right. I don't know.
Or is there... Or if it's handed to somebody, then maybe the relation of giver and receiver.
Right. I'd say...
Barry Allen and Wally West are related by I believe, Barry's... by Barry's wife.
Right. I don't know. I don't think that has to be
to Wally West.
Blood related at all. I think...
They don't. Or even, by law related in that case. But, like, somebody takes up the torch... because they were inspired by somebody else. Do they have to inherit power from that person? Or can they be a legacy if it's like Cyborg Superman wanted to become a hero because of Superman?
Right.
And, made a metal suit for himself kind of a thing.
Right, exactly.
Is that a legacy hero?
I think so. Especially if they became someone with the same title, so...
Point with the legacy hero thing, though, is that there are multiple ways to do it, and I think that it's a great storytelling mechanic. Look at Watchmen.
Right, exactly.
Night Owl...
And Silk Spectre, too,
Night Owl and Silk Spectre. Well, Silk Spectre and Night Owl were two different examples of this.
Right, exactly.
Silk Spectre was expected to take the role from her mother.
Oh, that's right. It was her literal mother. That's right.
So she did.
Yeah.
But Night Owl was somebody inspired by the original to take up the suit after the original retired.
Right, exactly. Well, and so if that fan theory works out, then James Bond could be a legacy hero.
In a way, yes.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, that's one thing that doesn't really fit into the above categories, because you start talking about multiple people, it's harder to categorize them, right?
Right, exactly. Well, if you have...
But it's worth talking about.
Well, there's a lot of different options here on what we can do for heroes, and I guess if you guys have any... if you guys want to give us
one
more...
more thing to say before you force the segue, though.
Yep, exactly. How can people get a hold of us?
I said there was one thing I wanted to say before you force
How
the segue,
can people...
though.
No, it's fine. Go on.
And, sorry,
yes.
with the exceptions of Black Widow and Snow White and Valkyrie from the MCU, we did not mention any female characters, so pour one out for all of those we neglected because we don't know them.
Here's to the ladies.
But obviously, they're very very capable of being heroic.
Absolutely.
Heroines, any of these categories, and I'm sure there are other examples that we missed just because we aren't necessarily as impacted by them because we are both male.
The woes
Sorry,
of being a
girls.
straight white male.
Oh, the woes of being a wasp. Anyway. No, sorry, not wasp like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Wasp is in W-A-S-P, white something.
Yeah, no, I knew what you meant.
Okay.
Speaking of which, Ant-Man's a good legacy hero.
Yeah, there you go, another one. But anyway.
And the Wasp,
so
too.
yes, because we can't talk about all of this stuff, we just don't have enough time. There are probably examples we missed. If you want to rage at us and say, why did you miss this person? Or why did you miss this hero? Maybe we'll do another episode if we get enough feedback about, we need to talk about this more. So if you'd like to get in touch with us.
Yes, of course. How could you do that? How can people get a hold of us?
Yep. So, well, obviously in that sense, please use the contact method.
Yes.
We've talked about it before. You can obviously do your own email system or go to the official website of Matthew Donald,
which is MatthewDonaldCreator.com,
and send us an email. That's Matt D with 2 T's, please and thank you. And
at
if you're gonna have, well, I already said that, so.
Well, I know, but just
anyway,
in case people were curious.
We share Matt's D in common, so if you want to direct it to a certain host,
yeah,
please
pick one
and
specify.
Or if you don't want to specify, that's fine too.
If it's a more broad one,
if you have questions that you'd like us to answer for you, and
we can read them out, or we can read them privately.
Please leave a mention if you'd like us to read them on the air, because we will do that if you'd like to have us do that.
Yep, we have. Listen to episode 24, for instance.
So yeah, if you can do that, that would really help the show. And especially if you've got ideas for future content, that'd be great. Download the Ritwit on iTunes, on Libsyn, from the Matthew Donald Creator website, wherever you can find good podcasts.
And hopefully, eventually, on YouTube, too.
And we're getting so much use out of the foghorn today. It's great. Well, I mean, we don't use it enough, so this is not bad.
It's true. We need to really amp it up here.
Give us a like and review. Any helpful tips that you've got for us, or maybe the newbies as well?
Guidelines on to guide us on down this crazy river of podcasting and content creating.
What is writting? If you have that answer, you would become our hero.
Yes, please.
Anyways, if you want us, we're gonna hopefully get the YouTube thing going up soon.
Yep.
I should say we, Matthew.
Yeah, like I am. You can't
claim
claim this. This is like my work. No, that's fine.
I'm not claiming it. We work on the podcast together, but the rest of it's also his stuff alone.
I do what I can. Yeah. So if you want to follow me personally,
YouTube as well.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on personally, you can follow me at Facebook at Matthew Donald Creator, or Twitter and Instagram, which is at MatthewDonald64. Well, I guess not Instagram, it's not at, but on Twitter it's at MatthewDonald64. Why 64? Because 64 years ago, something happened, I'm sure. Something. Who knows what it was?
I was going off of. Was it the Gettysburg Address?
I don't even remember. Something Abe Lincoln said.
Yeah, exactly. Good old Abe.
I'm an English major, not a history major.
I was about to say that's something we shouldn't delve into.
Although, fun fact, my illustrator is a history major, so.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, look out for the Hunted Ones. It'll be coming out very soon.
This foghorn's gonna get drained real quickly. Penny, shut up! We're finishing it up. It's almost done. God, this stupid bird.
Are you leaving that in? Anyway, thanks for listening to us talk a little bit about heroes. If you want more information, you know what to do.
Hopefully, we can be your heroes. So,
hopefully, you can be our hero and tell us what writting is. But anyway,
what the hell is it?
Until next time, if you want more information, you know what to do.
Yep.
But thanks for listening.
I'm Matt
Keep
Donald.
writing. I'm Matt David, and we'll see you next month.
Keep writing. See ya.
We're the show where us two twits talk about writting from the Ritwit.
That was my butt.
The Ritwit.